Hey guys, welcome to Drinking with Dave, where most episodes I will take one drink and then pair it with classical music. Today I'm going to be venturing a little bit outside of my wheelhouse to try mead. Now I have sampled mead before, but it's been several years and I've never tried either one of these. So for the most part, this will actually be a new experience. For that reason, I picked up two meads today. Not that my intention was to create a comparison video per se, but I wanted to have a couple different varieties because I don't really know what I'm doing here. And so I figured there's always safety and diversity just in case I ended up picking up one that wasn't really all that great. At the end, I might just end up comparing the two. I might single one of them out and then pair it with classical music. I might do that with both. Honestly, not sure what I'm doing yet. So for those unfamiliar with mead, or perhaps you've seen mead referenced in period pieces that depict medieval times, but have never actually tried it before, mead is basically wine that's been fermented from honey. Pretty simple. Today I've picked up a New World mead and an Old World mead. We'll go ahead and start with the New World. This is the Camelot mead. It's actually the #1 selling honey wine in the United States. So based off popularity alone, I figured this would probably be a pretty good place to start before we move on to the Old World. Now, just reading the back here, they describe it as Old World libation with New World perfection, subtle and sublime. And it also comes in at 10% ABV. So probably more in line with, typical wine than say like a whiskey or a liqueur. It's also very light in color. Now we notice here the Ribe Mjod. We can't really tell what the color is on this one, but this is made by Dansk Mjod. And just a heads up, I'm going to butcher anything Danish because that language is completely foreign to me. But I actually picked this one up at there's a Viking section in Total Wine and More that basically catered to anything that had a Viking theme with it. This particular meadery actually had other brands as well, like trying to remember some of the names, Viking Blood and Odin's Skull. Now this particular one was named after the city Ribe, which is supposedly one of the oldest cities in Denmark, or one of the oldest towns in Denmark, and is described as a true Viking settlement. The recipe itself, it says, comes from the year 1700, and it's 19% ABV, so about double the content of the Camelot. All right, let's go ahead and see what's on the nose. So quick notes, the first thing that I noticed is that the Ribe is quite a bit darker than the Camelot. Now, in the world of whiskey, that's usually an indication of older age statements. In the world of wine, of course, it has to do with how it's processed with the skins of the grapes. In the world of mead, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I have no idea what that means. I'm sure some of you watching this probably do, but it's completely foreign to me, like I said before. Let's just go ahead and jump on the nose, starting with the Camelot. Okay, this pretty much has no legs at all. Let me see. Whoa. That is quite sweet. It's very bright. I'm getting some citrus tones coming through, some floral notes as well. Not as much on the honey as I was expecting. No, it's there. It just didn't jump out at first. I think I was kind of overpowered at first with everything else going on there. But other than that, it's actually pretty simple. It's light. There's not a whole lot to say about that one. Let's move on to the Ribe. Okay. All right, this one has there's a little bit more legs to it. It's a little bit different too. Still bright, sweet, but the honey's a little bit more forward on this one. Higher alcohol content. You can tell that right off the bat. And the apples are really the other thing that jumps out. And I would say apples are pretty front and center on this one. In fact, I might even have just as much apple as honey on this. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the palate. Starting with the Camelot again. That is very sweet. If you like mead, you might describe this as smooth. If you didn't like this, you might describe it as light and watery. Take your pick. There are some nice fruit notes coming through here as well. It's very crisp. It's sweet. You know, there are some subtle citrus tones coming through, and then the honey really hits more on the back end, but very soft, subtle finish. Moving on to the Ribe now. Also very sweet. Apples probably jump out more than anything on this one, but there's a really nice complementary blend here between the apples and the honey. Almost has a cidery quality. You can also tell there's a higher alcohol content on this as well. A bit more of an aftertaste, so kind of almost get some like hops coming in there on the back end, and then a little bit longer finish than the Camelot. So I like the Ribe a bit more than the Camelot, but I tend to like apple flavors, so that's not surprising. I wouldn't describe either one of these as complex, although the Ribe might offer a little bit more than the Camelot in that regard. However, they both have similar profiles. Light, sweet, honestly a little too sweet for my tastes, a little bit too smooth as well. But if you've ever watched this channel, you know I tend to migrate more toward peaty scotches. But with that said, these are both good for the price, very inexpensive. Is it something I would buy again? If it's just me sitting around the house by myself, I would say no, it's not good enough to buy again, unless I had company coming over that I knew liked sweeter wines and ciders, and maybe I want to offer a little bit of variety to my guests. But other than that, you know, I don't really like sweeter wines. And when I go to tastings, usually they'll start from the driest and go up to the sweetest, and I'll end up checking out about halfway through. So that's me. But for those that like sweeter wines, I could certainly see why they would like something like this. So I've decided not to separate these, but rather go with overall impression. And if I'm pairing these with music, I am going with Delibes and choosing the Flower Duet from his opera Lakmé. And as always, I'll leave a link down in the description below if you want to listen to that. Now this one might be a little bit on the nose. It's a honey wine. Flowers are pollinated by bees. This comes at a moment in the opera where Lakmé and her servant are down by the river picking flowers. I get it. But aside from that, it actually matches the tone really well. I would say that these two are very similar. I'm sure if you're a mead head that knows what to look for, these are probably a lot further apart, but I get something very similar in the music here. Just like the two meads are very similar in tone, the two vocalists in the Flower Duets are very close in pitch. They spend most of the tune about a third apart. You also have something that's very similar in mood, in that it's pleasant, it's lighter, it's airy, bright, and just like the apples and the honey and the Ribe complements each other quite well, you could say the same about the complementary nature of the two voices here. So anyway, that's my take on mead. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. Take care.